Do you think hidden figures should stay hidden? Do you think history should be hidden? Do you think history should be altered to fit a certain person's ideal of what history should have looked like rather than what it actually did look like? Recently, there was a movie out called Hidden Figures, which was about women who worked in NASA, who were black women, who were in the math department, who actually were very, very much in effect of creating our launches back in the beginning of NASA, and figured out the trajectories and so on. One particular woman, I can't think of her name at the moment, but nobody knew about this. This was hidden in our history. Recently, yesterday, in Louisiana, in New Orleans, they decided that they are going to, by cover of night, take down Confederate era statuary in the town. One of them, the one that they took down yesterday, had a white supremacist message on the outside of it carved into it. Now, in taking this down, they are basically taking away history. Instead of taking away history, I think they should have made one of those beautiful poured brass plaques where they're like three-dimensional. They're really nice. That they use in museums and in different places where historical events happened. And they should pick somebody who in New Orleans has been influential in civil rights, and they should have wrote about them, and they should have wrote about the time era that this particular monument was put up, and left it where it is for the people to see, for the future to see. If you stick it in a Confederate museum, 150 years from now, nobody is going to go in there and see it, and they're going to have forgotten what exactly happened. Even the people who are fighting it and who are wanting this monument down do not and should not forget their history. But in doing this kind of thing, they are creating a way to forget history and to alter it the way they think it should have been, not how it really was. And I have an issue with that. The ISIS rebels have been destroying history in the Middle East. They've been destroying statuary that's thousands of years old. Horrible. It makes me cry to think about it. These things some of them haven't even been figured out as to what their association is with our past. We're just guessing. And they're destroying them. I think that the destruction of anything historical like that, be it something that is distasteful, like a white supremacist monument, or Stonehenge, perhaps. Stonehenge, created by pagans, most likely a ritual, area for pagan people. The Christians didn't come along and scour the land and get rid of it. They left it where it was. Granted, it'd be kind of hard to move. However, you don't destroy your history. I had a very nice conversation yesterday on a post with the African-American gentleman who was talking about how he would teach his children the history himself. Well, that's fine and dandy, but history is his story. It's created by the victor. And when you create a story about something that happened to yourself, you only create it from your perspective. You don't create it from the perspective of other people. Unless we forget our history, we will repeat it. And I don't want to repeat things like slavery. I don't want to repeat things like racial division. And I feel like in the last couple of years, this whole race issue that's come up has been there just to be divisive, just to create racial division, just to create a dialogue about racial division, when previous to that time frame there wasn't as much racial division as there is right now. I have lived in neighborhoods where it was predominantly black and Hispanic, and never felt like I was out of place with them. And I'm a half Jewish white girl, okay? One side of my family's English, Irish, Scotch, and German, and a little bit of Viking, and the other side of my family is Jewish. I mean, I didn't ever feel uncomfortable. I was accepted. Everybody was nice and stuff. Now, I feel like I have to watch my back when I go places because there are so many crimes that are racially motivated, and it's not coming from the white side, from the Caucasian side of the situation like it was in the past. Now it's coming from the other side. There were people being beat up just for voting for President Trump. I mean, it's sick. It's actually quite disgusting. Anyway, my thing with this is that if you take down these statues and you take them and you put them in a Confederate museum, 100 years from now, nobody will ever go to that museum and nobody's going to ever remember what really happened. It's going to be, oh, well, there was this and there was that and blah, blah, blah. Just like people mistake what the Confederate battle was about. It wasn't just about slavery. It was about financial issues. So people raising hell about, the Confederate flag and so on and so forth when that was going on a few months back didn't even know the information about what they were fighting for because they don't have the education that is required to understand what really happened. And the reason they don't have the education is because the schools teach you what they want you to know, a watered-down version of everything. And in the North, they don't teach much about the Civil War except for that it happened and, a few dates and so on. And in the South, they teach heavy Civil War, but they don't teach you about colonial history quite as much as they do in the North. I know this because I've gone to school in both places when I was in grade school. And see, the thing is, when you don't get taught history, you repeat history. And repeating history is not what we want to do. We want to go forward, not backward. And being like this about these types of things, these statuaries and so on, is a move backwards, not a move forwards. And that's what people don't seem to understand. You have to embrace your past and move on from it, and you have to understand it and understand why things are the way they are and why the things became the way they were and the progression of things to be able to understand how to progress further. And these progressives who think they're progressing further by destroying history are really the downfall of Western civilization. Eventually, everybody will forget to a point where they cannot function without, the false narrative that has been created. And it's probably happened in the past, and it's probably not the first time this has happened. However, I'm fighting to keep it from happening again because we keep repeating our past, we keep repeating our history. We are never going to get anywhere as a people. This world will never progress past a certain point. And, well, anyway, that's my little rant for the day, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I think these monuments should be left up, and I think new placards should be put next to them explaining the differences between how things are from the time that they were put there to today, and why, and who fought for it. You got to keep your history where you can see it in your face. You can't hide it in a dark corner. And a lot of people spend a lot of time hiding a lot of secrets in their closet, and they have these skeletons in their closet. And eventually, in the next generation or two, those skeletons get forgotten. And that's exactly what's going to happen to these items, these monuments here and in North Carolina, and the Confederate flag being taken down, so on and so forth. These things are going to wind up disappearing, and they won't ever come back. And when they don't come back, people will eventually forget what really happened. So, embrace your history, explain your history, show why things have changed, but don't remove it, don't destroy it, don't hide it in a corner so it can gather dust. And that's all I got to say. Have a good one, people.